problems we've done so far have been one-step conversions. Now we're going to look at what happens when we have more than one relationship used to get from our starting units to the units for our answer. So just like in a simpler problem, we would have our starting units. So in this case, we're starting with meters and we're looking for inches. And what I'm going to do next is write down the relationships that I know that might help me get from meters to inches. So if we have 1 inch equals 2.54 centimeters, 1 centimeter equals 10 to the minus 2 meters, and 1 foot equals 12 inches. So these are the relationships that I thought of that might be useful in solving this problem. So I just wrote them all down. I may not need all of them, and that's okay. Sometimes we write extra things down, but it's kind of handy to have all of it written down before we start the problem, because then we're focusing on how do we set up the problem, not going back and forth between how do we set up the problem and what is that relationship. So we're starting with 6.814 meters. We put in our fraction, and we know that meters has to go on the bottom no matter what, because we need meters to cancel out. So we put meters on the bottom, and we see that the only relationship we know is between meters is to centimeters. So I have meters on the bottom, centimeters on top, and I put in my numbers, put the 1 with the prefix, so the 1 with the centimeters, and the meaning of centi, 10 to the minus 2, with the base, or that naked unit on the bottom. Now I see that meters cancel out and I'm at centimeters, but I need my answer in inches, so I have to keep going. And I'm not actually going to stop and do calculations at this point. I'm going to set the whole thing up before I do calculations. So I'm going to set my next fraction up. Centimeters is going to go on the bottom because I need it to cancel out with centimeters, which is in the numerator of the previous step. Then I have to decide which relationship I'm going to use. 1 inch equals 2.54 centimeters, or 1 centimeter equals 10 to the minus 2 meters. And I'm going to start by showing you the wrong thing to do so that I can show you kind of what we do when we find out we've made a mistake. So here we have centimeters on the bottom. If I put meters on top and I put those numbers in, I realize that I've just gotten back to meters. And that's really not where I want to go. So I have to say, okay, this didn't take me down the path I needed to be. Let me figure out a different way. So I erase that. I still need centimeters on the bottom, so I try the other relationship and put inches on the top. So I can put 1 inch is 2.54 centimeters. Now centimeters cancel, and I'm left with inches this time. You're going to make mistakes when you set up problems. That's okay. That's why we focus on the units and making sure the units work out, because if the units aren't working out, the answer is never going to be correct. Now, we solve our problem and we get this big long number with lots of decimal places in inches. I need to go back and figure out how many sig figs I need in my answer. So I see I have 4 sig figs up there in the 6.814. All of these values are exact numbers. Those are definitions of those units. So we don't look at any of those when dealing with the number of sig figs. So I round this to 4 sig figs. So I get 268.3 inches. How many centimeters in 0.75 miles? And here we're given a couple of relationships to use. We're starting with miles. We're trying to get to centimeters. So I'm going to start with a simple unit because I want to get to a simple unit. I'm going to start with my 0.75 miles. And notice that I put MI, not M. Abbreviations matter because the difference in miles and meters is pretty significant, so we have to make sure we're using the right units. We always want a unit with our numbers, but we have to make sure we're using the right units and the right abbreviations. So I have miles in the numerator, which means I need to have miles in the denominator, and then I can put feet in the numerator because I have a relationship between miles and feet. So 1 mile is 5,280 feet. Now I have feet in the numerator, and I need to cancel that out, so I need to put feet in the denominator of the next step. So I put inches because I know the relationship between feet and inches. So 1 foot equals 12 inches. Now I need to have inches on the bottom and centimeters in the numerator because that's the other relationship I know. So 1 inch is on the bottom to cancel out with the inches in the numerator of the previous step. And I can put in my numbers. 1 inch equals 2.54 centimeters. Now I can look at what cancels out. So miles cancels with miles, feet cancels with feet, inches cancels with inches, and I'm left with centimeters. And so I get 120700.8 centimeters. And I see that the value I started with, the 0.75 miles, has 2 sig figs. That 0 before the decimal place is not a significant digit because it doesn't add precision to the answer. So I need my answer to have 2 sig figs, which means I'm going to need to write my number in scientific notation in order to get it into 2 sig figs. So I get 1.2 times 10 to the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 decimal places. So I have 1.2 times 10 to the 5th centimeters as my answer.